In the beginning, there was no existence, nor absence, no wrong, no right, no sign of day or night, no sky above, not a speck that moved, neither death nor eternal life. Darkness wrapped in darkness, an ocean of chaos perhaps. What was hidden? Where? For whom? Was there water? Was there an abyss? That one breathed without breath. Apart from that, there was nothing else. That one hidden in void emerged from the darkness by the force of its own heat. In its mind arose desire, the fundamental seed for thought. The hidden glow of the unseen spread across everywhere. Great forces and impregnators were there. Behind them was strength. After them was effort. But who truly knows? Who can declare when and how it all came about? Even the gods came after it happened. Who can then say when it first came into being? How and when did all this come into existence? Did he create it or did he not? He who sees it all from the highest heavens, he surely knows, or perhaps he knows not. That was a translation of the Nasadiya Sukta from the Rig Veda, the oldest known treatise in the world. So why is an ancient poem relevant to us? Because it is a beautiful example of what today we would call a conceptual model. It deals with a complicated problem, it explores possibilities, it hypothesizes, and then it suggests answers, it asks further questions, and instead of concluding with an all-knowing air, it leaves us with food for thought. Now, over the years, human beings have changed significantly. We have evolved, we have refined our instincts, we have heightened our aesthetics, we've progressed technologically. And on the other hand, we've also created division. We have waged wars, we have destroyed the natural environment, and we have caused a whole lot of trouble to one another. But amidst all this change, the human psyche has remained the same. The way we feel, the mechanism of our thinking, the physical strength of our bodies, all these things have more or less remained the same. And that is why if you take a child born 10,000 years ago and place it in this society, that child will grow up like any other child. And this is why I think religion, which is considered to be something as a remnant of the past, is still relevant to us in this modern world. In fact, I would argue that it is especially relevant in this modern world which has been overtaken by materialism. Now, some of you might disagree with me. And even if I would concede that religion is outdated, can you and me avoid religion? Can we escape its influence? If there's a holiday on account of a religious festival, everybody gets the day off, even atheists. You can't go to the airport and say, I'm an atheist, let me pass security check because I'm not a threat to anybody. And if there's a clash between two religious groups, can you guarantee that atheists will come out unscathed? So we have to accept the reality and work with it. We have to dig deeper. We have to understand religion. So, where does religion come from? Like most other human inventions, religion too has its origins in desire and fear. And historically, desire and fear have been the greatest motivators for most human endeavors. But let us look at religion specifically. I think that religion has come from geography, curiosity, and creativity. Now, geography gave rise to certain lifestyle choices, certain practices, certain food habits, certain kinds of clothing, and over time these were tested and refined, and a collection of these best practices is tradition. Curiosity gave rise to questions, and when we pondered over these questions, we found answers. And when evidence was gathered, some of these questions were answered conclusively. A collection of these answers is truth. But what about the questions that weren't answered? They remained in a state of hypotheses. But we don't like unanswered questions, do we? So we used our creativity to come up with myths and legends and stories and theories. Therefore, religion is a mix of tradition, truth, and theory. And each one of this has a certain role to play. The theist follows tradition and believes even the theory to be truth. The atheist mocks at tradition and believes even the truth to be theory. The answer, however, lies somewhere in between. In the early days, religion was evolving because the components of truth, tradition, and theory were constantly readjusting themselves. And there was a lot of revision that was happening. But at a certain point in time, perhaps with the advent of a great leader or a great follower or a great war, things became rigid and static. And this lack of dynamism in religion gave rise to intolerance and everything else that follows. Dogma, superstition, discrimination, war, terrorism, carnage. But this rigidity, this stasis, don't we find it in other fields too? Because human nature resists change. We seek equilibrium. And the easy way out is to seek it in stasis, is to seek static equilibrium. But the sensible way is to try and achieve dynamic equilibrium. So in the context of religion, how does one achieve dynamic equilibrium? By questioning our beliefs, by studying the scriptures, by discussing with people, by experimenting with truths, and by running everything past what I call the common sense test. It's a simple test with a single question. Ask yourself, is this appropriate? And when something doesn't appeal to your common sense, it's either too stupid or too profound, more often the former than the latter. And in either case, you just let that go and revisit it at a later time. At some point of time, you will be convinced of its stupidity or you'll realize its profundity. And this is where I'm so impressed with the conception of religion in ancient India. The very foundations of Sanatana Dharma lie in questioning beliefs, in seeking truths, in aligning ourselves with nature, and in celebrating life. The very words Sanatana Dharma give us an indication. Sanatana means eternal, and Dharma means sustainability. And this eternal sustainability is only possible when growth is organic and when it's in harmony with nature. And we find this idea recurring in all Eastern religions, be it in the dialogues of the Upanishads, the teachings of Taoism, or the koans of Zen Buddhism. Now, philosophy thrives in the elevated mind, but it can hardly exist in the empty stomach. There are a lot of people who cannot afford the luxury of contemplation. And even among those who can, there are certain periods in time when it becomes impossible. A stressful period at work, domestic problem, being afflicted by a disease, or just being caught up in the daily rush of life. And during these critical periods, the human brain works on autopilot so that it allows us to focus all our cognitive energies on the problem with the highest priority. This autopilot mode is called faith. Now, faith is a bad word for atheists, and with good reason, because blind faith hampers critical thinking. It kills the power of reasoning, which eventually leads to destruction. But faith in itself is inescapable. Without faith, you won't have sanity. You need to have faith to be sitting here right now. You have an implicit faith in the person who built this auditorium. You have implicit faith in the people sitting next to you that they won't harm you. Faith reduces this cognitive load. And that is why true skepticism is so damn hard. You know, there's an old joke that if you tell a man that there are 1,000,000 stars in the sky, he'll believe you. But tell him that the park bench is freshly painted, he will touch to see if it's true. And you know why? He touches it simply because he can. If he had a mechanism to count the number of stars in the sky, he would have. When we don't have the competence to understand or evaluate an idea, we don't admit it. Very often, we don't admit it because it pains our ego. So instead, we resort to our beliefs. We take refuge in our opinions. It just makes life easier. So this is a paradox. On one hand, faith is inescapable. Faith reduces cognitive load. Faith makes life easier. But also, faith causes confusion when it conflicts with common sense. And when faith prevails over common sense, we have ridiculous things like religious fundamentalism. And how to solve this? I think that religious fanaticism has to be countered by the powers inherent in society, by the judicial system, by proper education, by dialogue, by encouraging people to examine their beliefs. It cannot be countered by another form of fanaticism like fascism or communism or atheism or pacifism. And to achieve this ideal, the administrative guidelines of societies have to be secular, in that they have to be outside of religion. And to become truly secular, we have to first answer some very uncomfortable questions. Why should society prohibit somebody from following his or her religion? Why should the law favor one religion over another? And why shouldn't the government put restrictions on religious activities that are causing nuisance to everybody else? And why should religious institutions get special tax benefits? Shouldn't religion be at a personal level? And I can only imagine the horrors of a society which forces all its people to become either theistic or atheistic. In the evolution of the human mind, religion, science, humanities, pseudoscience, all these things have a part to play. I like to think of it as an equation. Science plus religion equal to a constant. And in this equation, by science, I mean all the body of knowledge that we have from modern research in the sciences and the humanities, be it the structure of an atom or the hierarchy of organizations. And in this equation, by religion, I mean all that knowledge which we get from religious texts and pseudoscience, which is presently outside the realm of science. Now, as we learn more and more about the world, the science segment is going to grow bigger, and the religion segment is going to grow smaller. And there are, of course, some side shows. Pseudoscience might push something from science to religion. Humanities might push something from religion to science. And this equation will continue to be dynamic until we know whatever there is to be known. But the truth is, today we don't have all the answers. We don't know everything. New information is constantly pouring in and modifying our worldview. We thought that the earth was flat. We thought that the earth is the center of the universe. We thought that humans could never fly. But now we know better. And the problem is not so much about having an answer or not having it. The problem is in blindly accepting or rejecting an idea. And the journey from ignorance to illumination can happen only when we open our minds and learn to entertain an idea without rejecting or accepting it. And if we wish to form an all-round view of the world, we have to constantly examine our beliefs. We have to objectively examine the evidence. We have to experiment in our daily life. We have to constantly question status quo. And we have to, at all times, listen to the voice of intuition that comes with years of experience. And if we do this, then we can go to the very core of religion, which is spirituality. What is spirituality? Worldly life is full of dualities, and going beyond the opposites is spirituality. Becoming aware of the moment and leading life mindfully is spirituality. Embracing the world and seeing how everything is connected is spirituality. Now just imagine I'm standing here in front of you. For me to have been born, my parents should have met at a certain time, their parents should have met, and then their parents, and so on for generations. Every birth is a miracle, and surviving from one moment to another is a miracle. Imagine the precise conditions under which I should have been born, raised, and educated for me to be here today. The city in which I was born, the neighborhoods in which I grew up, the friends I made, the schools and colleges I went to, the teachers and mentors I had, the books I read, the talks I heard, the shows I observed, and the opportunities I had, all these things, can you imagine how many factors have led to me being here today? And I've come all the way from Bangalore, so I took a train, and then I took a bus, and then a car. Now somebody invented these things. Somebody refined over the existing designs. Somebody designed and built the very train and bus and car that I took to come here. Somebody built the tracks. Somebody built the roads in the middle of these beautiful mountains. Somebody built this beautiful auditorium. We could go further. Somebody created language. Somebody wrote books. Somebody shared ideas. Somebody gave inspiration. Can you see how much I owe to this universe? For me to be standing here today has taken the power of the entire universe from the beginning of time until this very moment. And it is the same for every one of you. And every now and then we hear a successful person say, I'm a self-made man. Really? What is a good response to that? I go back to the Rig Veda, the 10th book, 13th poem, first verse. It calls human beings by a very cheerful, hopeful name. It calls us children of immortal bliss, possessors of divine natures. Let us try to remember this in times of trouble and turmoil. Each and every one of us here is a child of immortal bliss, possessed with divine qualities. And what greater divinity than feeling the magic of being alive, being here, being now. It is a great gift, and it would be a pity for it to go waste, don't you think? Thank you very much.